Imagine grieving the loss of your father, standing at his graveside while miles away someone is trying to strip away the very last thing he left behind, the ranch he poured his soul into. That's exactly what happened when Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, thought she could exploit a moment of vulnerability and auction off a 2.3 mile property she had no right to touch. But grief can turn into resolve, and what she didn't know was that this ranch wasn't just a house, it was a legacy. And legacies don't go quietly. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and a comeback Karen never saw coming. When Daniel inherited his father's sprawling 2.3 mammoths ranch, he knew it came with responsibility, but he never expected it to become a battleground. The ranch had been in his family for generations, a piece of land built with hard work, sweat, and years of sacrifice. His father's passing was devastating, and Daniel spent the weeks after the funeral trying to process the grief, clinging to the ranch as his last connection to his dad. But while Daniel was trying to honor his father's memory, Karen, the head of the HOA, was plotting behind his back. She had always been a thorn in the community, enforcing ridiculous rules, issuing fines for things as small as a mailbox color, and making herself the authority over everyone's homes. And when she learned Daniel had inherited the ranch, her eyes lit up, not with sympathy, but with opportunity. Karen saw the land as a prime chance to expand her influence and make money under the guise of auctioning off unused property. She thought Daniel was too distracted with his father's passing to notice. She was wrong. Karen began by spreading rumors in the neighborhood. She told residents that Daniel's ranch had unpaid HOA dues, claims that were entirely fabricated. She even stood at community meetings declaring, if owners don't keep up, the HOA has the right to step in and resolve it. People nodded nervously because no one dared challenge her. Karen thrived on intimidation. Meanwhile, Daniel was at his father's burial, completely unaware that paperwork was being filed to schedule an auction for his ranch. The audacity was staggering. While he was lowering his father's casket into the earth, Karen was raising her hand to sign documents to sell his home. But Daniel wasn't the kind of man to stay silent. When he discovered the HOA's move, it wasn't from Karen directly. It was from a neighbor who slipped him a note. "They're planning something. You need to be careful," it read. At first, he didn't believe it. Auctioning off someone's property? It sounded too wild to be true. But when he dug into the HOA's records, his blood ran cold. The date for the so-called auction was set. Karen had truly gone that far. Instead of panicking, Daniel chose strategy. He remembered something his father used to say. "The ranch is more than land. It's proof that no one can bully this family out of what we built." That mantra fueled him. He contacted his attorney, gathered every deed, every tax record, and every receipt showing the ranch was fully paid and up to date. Not a single dime was owed to the HOA. Not that they had any jurisdiction over his land in the first place. Karen had overstepped and Daniel was ready to expose her. The day of the HOA auction was staged like some kind of performance. Karen strutted around with her clipboard, speaking loudly so everyone could hear. "We are selling off this neglected property to bring value back to the community," she announced, as if she were a hero. Neighbors whispered, some too afraid to question her, others secretly hoping Daniel would appear. And appear he did. Right as Karen tried to open the bidding, Daniel walked in, not with anger, but with calm, calculated confidence. The room fell silent. "Before you start selling what doesn't belong to you," Daniel said, holding up a folder, "maybe you should read what the law says." He placed the stack of documents on the table, each one proving ownership, paid taxes, and the fact that the ranch wasn't even legally under HOA jurisdiction. Karen's face drained of color, but she tried to laugh it off. "This is a community matter," she snapped. But Daniel didn't back down. He pulled out one more paper, a cease and desist order signed by his lawyer, filed that very morning. "This auction is illegal," he said firmly. "And if a single person raises a bid today, you'll be complicit in fraud." The room shifted. Suddenly, neighbors who had been silent were whispering support. One man stood and said, "Karen, you've gone too far this time." Another added, "We're tired of your lies." The confidence Karen had relied on for years was slipping through her fingers, and Daniel was taking control. She tried to bark back, but no one listened. The auction collapsed before it could even begin. But Daniel didn't stop there. He knew Karen would try again if left unchecked. So he filed a formal complaint with the county, exposing Karen's attempt to defraud him and misuse HOA power. He also called a community meeting of his own, where he laid out the truth. He told the story of his father's ranch, how much it meant, and how the HOA had tried to take it from him while he was grieving. His words weren't just a defense, they were a rallying cry. Neighbors who had been afraid of Karen finally spoke up about the harassment they had faced too. Within weeks, Karen was removed as HOA president. Investigations revealed she had mismanaged funds, levied false fines, and bullied countless residents. She went from being the untouchable queen of the neighborhood to a disgraced figure no one trusted. The HOA was forced to rebuild, this time with leaders who cared about fairness, not power. And Daniel? He secured the ranch, installing security cameras and locking down every legal loophole Karen might have tried. The ranch stood stronger than ever, a living tribute to his father's memory. But what truly mattered wasn't just that Daniel saved the property, it was that he reclaimed his power during his darkest time. He turned grief into determination, proving that even when people try to take advantage of your lowest moment, you can rise higher. The ranch remained his sanctuary, and every sunrise over those acres reminded him that his father's legacy was safe, untouchable, and eternal. And as for Karen, let's just say she learned the hard way that messing with someone's home, especially during their grief, is the biggest mistake of all. Because legacies don't get auctioned. They get protected, so the next time someone tries to underestimate you when you're down, remember Daniel's story. Remember that strength doesn't always roar. It can speak calmly, backed by truth, and still bring down the loudest bully in the room. Karen thought she had power, but Daniel showed her what real strength looks like. And that's a story worth remembering. CTA. If you found yourself hooked by this story, make sure to stick around, because every tale like this carries a lesson in resilience, justice, and standing up for what's right. And who knows? The next story might be the one that inspires you to fight for your own legacy,